Hey guys, good to see you already in the chat, having discussions with Cred. He's already bullying people. Now that he cannot bully me on Twitter anymore, he's here in the comments. Feels bad, man. um, Someone asked about my OS number or something. No idea what you're talking about. What that stands for. But yeah, before we start, I want to give a big shout out to Blockfolio, the sponsor of the show. Their links are in the description if you want to check them out. They still do portfolio tracking, but they also let you trade on there, which is pretty cool. It's super easy, all on mobile. Pretty much the easiest way, I think, to get in and out of crypto if you want to have it super easy and not on your computer. Sorry, Don, I'm apparently bullying your audience. I'm just kidding, bro. I'm just kidding. Yeah, Dimitri said he bought 40.8K and wonders if he's screwed. I mean, have you not learned the way of the crab yet? I don't know if you've seen it on my Twitter, but I've posted the crab, and the crab support is down here, and the crab resistance is in here. So you literally bought where you're supposed to sell. But yeah, shit happens. We'll talk about like what's actual support, like if you want to get long or buy or whatever, and what this all means in a bit. Cred, shut the fuck up for once. It's Don stream. I wouldn't. No, man. Cred makes this 10 times more enjoyable. Love having him here. I know, but the crab just mistakenly identified a breakout. Yeah, that's why you're waiting for the closes, brother. But yeah, shit happens. The problem with buying resistance is that now I can't really give you good advice because no matter what you do, it's going to be shitty, right? So, but yeah, high time frame. We haven't really talked in a while, so let's go over it. High time frame, pathetic bounce so far, right? I mean, we're in the middle of the month right now, and yeah, this is pretty damn pathetic. Even on the log chart, looks pretty sad. Now that can change in the next few days, but I mean, I wouldn't count on it. This looks pretty bad. The weekly time frame looks a little bit better. I think like this breakout is pretty significant. Kind of clears the way towards 45K, as long as it holds, right? If we just get rejected by daily resistance, which we are right now, and fall back into it and then start closing back in this range, I'm going to expect a complete and utter breakdown and much lower. So this has to hold. 38K is kind of the line in the sand. We're chilling there right now, so that has to change in the next 4 days. If anything bearish happens, we fall back into it. I mean, I don't really see a good reason to be bullish, right? But as long as we're chilling above it, the way towards 45K is relatively clear on the high time frames. Then again, if you look at this, right, and this is something that you should be doing from time to time, I can only recommend you do this. You look at this, you clear the chart, remove all drawings, and you look at this, and then you analyze like what's actually happening, right? Because what we've had is a massive impulse to the downside, a tiny bounce in a consolidation range. And if that doesn't pick up any steam soon, I mean, that's just cooked, right? Like, doesn't take a genius to see this and be like, okay, this is just consolidation after a breakdown. And it's a weak bounce on top of that. So there's a lot of positive price action that has to happen for bulls to kind of make their case and solidify their case. But we are at support. We broke above 38K, so at least the first steps are done. Just means it has to kind of moon off of this level. And so far it's not done that, but I mean, that can change, right? So it's going to be an interesting weekend again. If we just straight up fall back into it, I mean, yeah, I'm just going to expect lower. And if we stay above it and find support in the 38K range and break out of the daily level that I'm going to talk about in a second, then I think there's a good chance we go up. No, Cred's gone. You guys You guys and me actually have bullied him out of here. Shit. Now I feel bad. It's not my fault. You guys did it. But yeah, this is the daily chart that I think makes the most sense to look at. And this is just, like I said at the beginning of the stream, this is a crab range, like literally just the range, one of the cleanest ones that we've had in a long time. Now, if you want to make a case for breakout yesterday, or like the day before, or even the day before that, Jesus Christ, time flies. You could. It's gonna like depend on how the daily closes today. Like if we start closing back above 39k, I think there's a good chance that we'd actually break out of here. If we lose this, I think there's a good chance that we get a second leg down to 36, and that has to hold, right? And we've talked about how the Sailor news have to impact price, and I still think that's the case. So whenever he publishes that he has bought, I want to see positive price action more than anything. If we don't get that, look out below, basically. Okay. Powell is talking like technical trader. Oh shit, he's like literally gone. Cred is literally gone. I feel really bad now. Shit. But yeah, we have some interesting US data coming out right now. There's like a conference going on. I always forget the terms because, I mean, who cares what they're called, right? But basically, nothing's changing. So that's kind of the takeaway, at least from the quick glance that I've had at it anyway. So nothing's really changing. And then we've had like this super erratic low time frame price movement going into it. But that's normal. We've had that multiple times in the past. It just shows how the market doesn't really know what the fuck's going on, right? People are just sitting there gambling basically because there's no straight technical setup into news like this. So, I mean, everyone's just kind of like anticipating, and then it just played out like a nothing burger basically, and both sides got wrecked. So no big changes there. Michael's strategy. I like that. Michael's strategy bought already the new 600 million. I don't know. I don't think so. I haven't been on Twitter, and I usually get that info on Twitter, but I don't think he has bought yet. So what about ETH done? I mean, ETH just looks complete and utter garbage. I mean, ETH's just shit, and I've been saying as much for a while now. But we'll talk about it in a bit. But yeah, Bitcoin, that's kind of my view on it. Like, we want to be closing above, obviously, support today, which is 39k. And if that is lost, I mean, there's another chance at 36. But I mean, that's pretty shitty. So has to hold 39k. Like I said, higher time frames, like high time frames. The monthly, for example, looks giga trash. The weekly looks somewhat okay. Daily looks like a range. And there we are. I don't really see the point. Like, I see a lot of people trying to play the breakouts or whatever. I think that's the worst thing that you can do in a market like this. Like, the market is clearly going sideways. And when you're playing, like when the market is going sideways and you're playing the breakout on the low time frames, right? When you have this basically, and you play the breakout, what happens is you're just going to get sold into, it squeezes down, you get fucked. And then the same thing happens on the other side, and it still keeps on going sideways. So, I mean, breakout traders are getting wrecked here. They've had it too easy on the left side. Now they're bleeding all their money, basically. And I mean, that's nothing new. We've had that before. And I think that's going to continue. We've had it on the low time frames, right? Where it's like, this is a breakout out of basically this range, this small range here. And people that bought that breakout got wrecked, like our friend Dimitri. And we've had the same thing on the lower time frames in here, where the bearish breakout traders got wrecked. So, I mean, no surprises there. The higher, like the little bit like I wouldn't call it macro range, but this range in here, still intact, still working as normal. So that's kind of like where the market is right now. There's really not that much to talk about. Whenever the market's going sideways, just like, I mean, just enjoy your time, do something else, in my opinion anyway. With regards to altcoins, I'm pretty damn bearish on most of them. Looking at ETH, this looks pretty shit even on the Bitcoin pair now. Where you have like a high, you get a massive rejection, and you get a complacency bounce. That looks pretty damn garbage. If this down here breaks, you're gonna see a swift move down. So I don't want to be touching ETH, even if it's at support right now. I don't really see the narrative for it right now, because like I said before, when you have the market concentrated on Bitcoin, it doesn't make much sense to be in altcoins, because if the Bitcoin narrative fails, the entire market is gonna go to shit anyway. So might as well bet on Bitcoin or not at all, right? So betting on these altcoins, it's just a bad idea in my opinion. But I mean, I could be wrong on that one. I'm just happy I'm not in this, because when you're comparing the ETH USD and the Bitcoin USD market structure, this looks even worse than Bitcoin does. And I mean, Bitcoin looks pretty damn shitty to me. This just broke down massively, right? I mean, this is a huge crash. Bitcoin is a huge crash. This is massive, right? 60%, no time at all. Looks pretty damn garbage. And then all this bounce did was basically go sideways straight from where it bounced. I mean, this is as much like, this is literally something like this. If you do like the 3-day or whatever, and now if you want to see it because your judgment is clouded or whatever by the candlesticks, this is how the chart looks right now, right? Without all the candlesticks, without anything on it. You've had a massive breakdown and we've had a tiny bounce into sideways. This looks garbage. Like, and no one can, like, yes, this can go up, right? And the next resistance is quite a bit away at 3.2K. But even there, it would look garbage, right? I've shown you the ETH PTC thing, the complacency bounce-ish, right? If this went to 3.2K, still have that, right? So I would expect it to break down from there if it even gets there. Right now, bounce is awfully uninspiring. So not the biggest fan on this, not the biggest fan on Bitcoin. But Bitcoin at least looks somewhat better because it has actually challenged the range high, and it has actually like a support left that it can kind of reclaim at 39K. And if it does that, I think higher just makes sense. So there's like a setup that you can take on Bitcoin. There's none whatsoever, at least on the bullish side for ETH, in my view. Don bearish on altcoins, who would have expected that? I mean, I've been bullish on ETH for quite a while. Like, if you think back, and I mean, you can just watch back the videos if you absolutely have to. This breakout, right? This breakout was massive for me. And I was even on the Monday show that I do with Ledger and Josh and Luke. We talked about this being a fake out. And then literally it engulfed and fucking mooned afterwards. It's just, we've rallied pretty damn high, and ETH was high to begin with, right? I mean, this was a pretty nice like 2x. And the thing is, right, when you're looking at ETH here, where does it go from here? Like, if this is bullish, right, which it could be, where does it go from here? Let's say it doubles again. Then it's already approaching flipping territory. It's already getting very close to overtaking Bitcoin's market cap. And that has so far only ever happened in the biggest of bubbles, where we've had a massive crash afterwards. So like, for me to expect that to happen, like, doesn't make any sense. And then even like thinking about taking that trade, like taking a trade where I take like a 2x home and have the risk of this completely breaking to the downside, nothing for me, right? It gets this close to flipping, I have no interest in it whatsoever anymore. Now this can turn bullish, whatever, from the support, and then you can play it from support to resistance. I don't mind it. It's just like the larger swing play is definitely done. I don't see the point. Unless you expect ETH to just massively outperform Bitcoin and get bigger than Bitcoin, then do whatever you want to. But like that is anything, like I expect anything but that. Like there's no fucking way in my mind. So that's kind of my view on this. Could be wrong. I mean, ETH's its own beast. Has kind of set itself apart a little bit from the altcoins, but in the end, it's still an altcoin, right? And when all altcoins dump, ETH does like to do so too. So that's kind of my view on that. And the rest of the altcoins we don't even need to talk about. Like I've been seeing like some people that try to sell products, try to shill this, but I mean, I don't know how much of mental gymnastics you have to do to make this any appeasing, right? I mean, this looks like garbage. You have pretty shitty support down here. If this breaks down, it makes new lows. Like Litecoin, garbage to me. I don't see the point. ADA kind of looks like ETH. And I mean, you can make, like, this looks much better than the rest. And I still think like ETH looks much better than most other altcoins do. ETH looks kind of like ADA, right? But like, where do you want to bet on this? Like, if it goes to all-time high, like I would never want to be taking this beyond all-time high, right? And then you have like a 60% move. And the downside is basically going all the way back down here. So have fun like getting a 60% move if the downside is basically 90% to the downside. Like that's not something that I want to be taking, right? I don't see the point trading this. Bitcoin Cash, same thing, right? Started looking good, had a nice breakout, engulfed that completely, now looks like garbage. Like we don't need to talk about any of these because they all look like crap. Funnily enough, XRP actually looks better than a lot of other stuff. I would rank that with ETH, funnily enough, even though I think XRP is trash. But like any of these, you don't want to be touching those. Like I could see a massive breakdown on all of the altcoins. I don't even, like I can click through this list. Everything looks like garbage. And everything looks kind of top to me. So don't want to be talking about the altcoins too much. Bitcoin's more interesting. And if Bitcoin rallies, right, these altcoins get, like, you could be asking yourself, okay, this guy is just talking trash about these altcoins, but there is a world where they go bullish again. And that world is if Bitcoin actually has some bullish price action, goes back into the 50 to 60K range, the altcoins take a shit on the way there because Bitcoin just rallies too strongly. And then Bitcoin goes sideways, whatever, and altcoins start catching up again. Like that's a world in which I could see the altcoins outperform, but with the current market structure, right? As in, we've had a massive drop and then sideways. The only way I could see the altcoins rally is if we were preparing for the next leg down for Bitcoin. Because something that's been historically happening is that after Bitcoin's broken down, if the altcoins do well, typically, and this has been happening in the last few years multiple times, after a big impulse to the downside on Bitcoin, if our altcoins start rallying against Bitcoin, that usually means we're in this phase before the leg down, right? So the fact that we are not having the altcoins rally too much is a good sign in my view. The fact that we broke 39K is also a good sign in my view, as long as we're holding it today. So there's promise on the Bitcoin side of things, much more than there's on the altcoin side of things. And once Bitcoin has kind of proven its point and kind of returned to being back bullish, which, like I said, there has to be like a lot of work done. But if that happens, I mean, then you can see the altcoin start performing again. That's my view. I don't really see the point. And the reason why we've not been talking about altcoins in the newsletter is basically that. Both Fred and I agree that as long as the market looks shit, no one's gonna go risk on the altcoins, even more so after they've done like 10x's across the board, sometimes like against Bitcoin, while Bitcoin's 10x basically. So, I mean, I know bleak outlook for like at least everything against Bitcoin, but I mean, it's just how the market works, right? If the altcoins take a shit, there's another opportunity there. Let's say some of these retrace 50, 60, 70, 80, 90%. I mean, there's another buy in there and then another play. Because if we double bubble, right? Let's say we double bubble on Bitcoin. As in, we've had our top, we've had all the typical kind of top things that come around when we have a cycle top, right? And if we break down, we've had kind of like the complacency, at least on a low time frame. We break down, then go sideways and start creeping up and do like another one of those, and then have like the proper top before the breakdown. I think on this way, like if we had that, on this entire way from here to basically here, altcoins would take a massive shit against Bitcoin. Like this entire way, you'd basically not gain any USD being in altcoins. And then the moment it looks like it's going to infinity and people start selling the altcoins, it kind of turns around, you get the altcoins do well again, and then you get Bitcoin drop. Like that I could see, but why would I be kind of looking into the altcoins in here when I'm expecting like best case for Bitcoin and for the entire market, the altcoins to take a shit in here? And then the same thing, right? This is the bullish case, which could happen, right? I mean, who the fuck knows? It's crypto. We've had crazier things happen, right? So double bubble case. And then we have the other case in which we've had our top. We've had the complacency bounce. We break down. We went sideways. We might have like a tiny complacency shoulder or like a bigger one. And then we break down again. Like there's no fucking way in my mind that the altcoins do well in this portion either, right? So like whether we're in the bull or the bear case, it's really, really tough being bullish altcoins right now. The only kind of bullish case I could see, and I think this is probably the most unrealistic one, would be we've had all of this, we broke down, we go sideways, and then we go sideways some more for like a year or two. Then I could see the altcoins take off, but then like, I mean, it would basically just be money shifting left and right because people are getting bored. And this market would be one where you'd be better off just not trading. So, and this is the only one in which I can see, like at least in the short term, positive action for the altcoins. So, I mean, like any of these that I can think of in my mind that make sense are bad for altcoins. So, not really interesting. Now, we have an interesting thing coming up with the Ethereum protocol update and all that kind of jazz. So I mean that could prove me wrong if that's not going to be a sell the news event, and I'm going to be looking at that closely, but that's still a little bit off, and I suspect that it's going to be a sell the news event just based on how the market is set up. Doesn't mean like the entire thing is bearish or whatever, it just means like people are probably going to be happy to take some profit off after having taken Ethereum from basically $100 all the way to 2.5 and like at the highest 4.5, right? This is up 45x from the lows. So that bullish narrative, I mean, there's a good case to be made for it to be already priced in, but we will see. I mean, I'm not writing all of these off like fully just yet. I'm just saying like my tiny brain can't comprehend a reality where it makes sense to be too exposed. Not true because we're lazy. I mean, that's also a good point. Cred says about the newsletter thing. No, but for real, like there's literally no setups anywhere. Like we can go through all of these, and I usually can see like at least like a setup, even though I don't like it, right? But if anything, like I could give you some bearish setups. Which I think are pretty shitty to kind of peddle to a larger audience, because I mean, if you start margin trading this on the short side, there's a good chance you just get wrecked. Like usually what you want to be doing with the altcoins is they rally, they've had their cycle, right? They break down, and then you just leave it and then revisit it a year or two or three later. That's kind of the way to go with the altcoins. Don't fiat. I mean, I've just made a good case for being bullish Bitcoin, right? And the entire narrative is pretty bullish Bitcoin in itself, right? The entire global narrative. So if you want to be bullish something, that's what I'm saying basically, is be bullish Bitcoin. And then where do you want to be bullish Bitcoin? I mean, basically, if it closes back above 39.1, 39.2 today, I think that's a pretty decent trade right there. Basically, from here, stop loss somewhere down here, target somewhere in the 49s, 45s, right? That's a pretty decent trade. Even this, I think, is fine. And then you might say, dude, this is almost a 1-to-1 trade. And I mean, it is almost one. It's still a little bit better. But the thing is, with these kind of things, right, I don't mind taking a trade which is like this when it works out 80% of the time. Like, you'd be an idiot not taking a trade where it works 80% of the time with a setup like this, right? Even though like the risk to reward ratio is actually lower than 1. But in this case, there's more than plenty to be made on the upside. And even if you want to take it higher, right, there's still more. Like, that is a setup that I can kind of get behind. On the altcoin front, I don't see the point. Like, I legitimately don't see the point. And like, even if ETH goes up from here, like back in my shorting days, any bounce into 3.2k, I mean, that's almost like an all-in kind of short situation, because that's fucking giga nuking from there, I think, if it does get there. But I'm not shorting anymore, so long only. Was ist, wenn man, someone asks about still having altcoins, what to do? I mean, the answer is I don't fucking know. Like, that's the problem with like keeping these altcoins when they look like garbage for too long. Because like, if I tell you, like, looking at this, right, this is just an example. If I tell you right now to sell Litecoin, for example, right, this is right at support, right at this moment. This looks like garbage, and I think it's probably gonna break down, right? And the entire narrative doesn't support any long trade on this. But if I'm telling you to sell this and this goes up here, you're probably likely to FOMO back in, and then it's gonna break down, and then you're gonna be wrecked. Or I'm wrong. And I mean, I'm not in position, so for me, it doesn't really matter if I'm wrong or not. But if I'm wrong and this breaks to the upside, I'm gonna have given you shit advice. We talked about like purging all coin setups on this bounce basically, and that's a much more comfy one. Now that we're 2 weeks after, pretty damn difficult to make a call. Something that you're gonna have to make up on your own, right? I mean, the thing is, if you bought an altcoin, I mean, hopefully you did it with plan in mind, right? You bought this for speculation purposes, and you want to get out below a certain level, and you want to take it to a certain level. If you've done that, I mean, just stick with that, right? If you haven't, and you're only in it for speculation purposes, then, I mean, you're going to have like a long, hard look at yourself and wonder if you're actually gambling or what the fuck you're actually doing, right? Because if you're investing in this thing, you shouldn't be giving a shit. Like, you bought this because you think Litecoin is going to overtake Bitcoin for whatever reason. I mean, me saying this looks like garbage shouldn't kind of deter you from that. So either you did it for speculation purposes, and then you always have to have like an invalidation in mind. Otherwise, I mean, you're literally just gambling. Or you do it for investment purposes where it doesn't really matter. And if you're like, okay, I did it for speculation purposes, but now it looks like garbage, so I want to get out, and I didn't really think about it back then I can only give shit advice, right? Because in that situation, it's really, really hard to give good advice. But Twitter told me you're always shorting, even though you haven't been able to for like a year. Please explain. I mean, Twitter's just mentally disabled. It's just is what it is, dude. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. I've been dealing with so much shit on Twitter, it's actually insane. I don't understand. People are literally making up positions for myself. And I'm wondering, what the fuck, like, did I sleepwalk, take positions, and I post about it? Start shorting at the bottom without knowing? Because, like, I've had some people tell me that I have, which, I mean, Yeah. I don't fucking know. I don't understand it. Like, they understand my positions better than I do, apparently. But, I mean, yeah. I took the autism test, passed with flying colors. Congrats, man. Congrats. But yeah, I mean, that's where we are right now. It's really, like, that's the thing, right? We're in this range. And if you bought the range high, you did a stupid thing. But I mean, there is salvation for you if we start closing back above 39. And I think if you start losing this, and this is all depends, and this is why it's like so hard to give any long-lasting advice right now. If Saylor tweets in 5 minutes that he's bought, right, fully bought, and this price doesn't do shit and just stay sideways, I mean, I'll expect it to fucking giga nuke, right? But if this breaks out and then Saylor tweets at like 44 that he's bought fully, and then the price actually starts creeping up again afterwards, I mean, then fucking send it. So it doesn't only depend on the chart, even though the chart's going to help you. It also depends on, okay, like what's happening with MicroStrategy, because they're pumping a shitload of money into this market. It feels like, from time to time, it feels like they're the only ones buying this shit, which is hilarious in itself. But yeah, so that has a lot of impact. And something I've been talking about before is, for example, we've had this breakdown here, right? We've had this massive rally, COVID rally, made somewhat new highs at 12K and then broke down, right? And I saw this as a bearish development happening here, basically. The same kind of deal that we've had up here. It's hilarious that both tops that we've had in this rally have been head and shoulders. And I've been made fun of for just saying, okay, it's just a head and shoulders. I'm not even a pattern trader, but I mean, when they're this clear, you just fucking trade it, right? But anyway, we've had this breakdown, right? And in my opinion, this consolidation would have played out bearishly if Saylor didn't put in a floor. And Saylor bought so much that it couldn't dump through it, and then it just squeezed the shit out of everyone. And now we're in the same situation, right? We have this head and shoulders, and Saylor is trying to prevent the breakdown again. And the question is he going to be able to or not? And now buying is much more expensive, right? Basically 4 times as expensive. And he has less money to do so. But, I mean, he seems to be willing to put in a shitload, and that can pump the market. And then, I mean, who knows if that's going to play out the same way again. But it's literally the same situation. So we're going to have to kind of rely on him. And we're going to have to rely on, like, what his buys do to the price. Basically, what I'm saying is, if this starts doing the same thing as we've done in here again, I mean, don't be an idiot and try to fade it, right? But if it can't, this is just going to break down massively. So, like Elon rescued 30K breakdown, yeah. This was Saylor basically putting in a floor. This was Tesla putting in a floor. And there was no one to put in the floor here, so we broke down. That's how hilarious the market trades right now. Like, you get a massive, shitty looking chart, and then either a big guy comes in and scoops everything up, or we break down. That's been the kind of entire way up in that case. So you gotta be a little bit careful just relying on TA, because it's a little bit more than that. And I mean, the TA is going to show you, like, for example, like I was still bearish down here, and then I changed my tune basically right here, and even flipped bullish in here, even though like I got a lot of shit for this, saying 14K is in the cards. At least I wasn't bearish anymore in this, just based on the fact that there was an iron floor there. And I mean, let's say we go back down to 32K and don't break down, which, like, this chart, if we go back to 32K in all, like, this should always break down, right? But if it doesn't, and I see accumulation like I've seen in here and I've seen in here, then I'm going to assume someone big is coming in again, and that it's probably going to hold, right? So it's not only the TA that you have to look out for, is all I'm saying. It's always nice to have like news to kind of gauge how strong the market is. We've had a bunch of bullish news in this range, didn't do shit. The only thing that could move it was basically Saylor saying he would bail longs out. And anyone, like, this is one of the things that I struggled with most, right? We got the Saylor announcement. We got like, okay, he's gonna pump the market basically, right? And then we've had a failed breakdown, and he said he's gonna buy more. And then momentum vanished on the bearish side of things, right? So there's no real reason to be bearish anymore when you know Saylor's gonna buy in the next few days to weeks. Because anyone that wants to be selling at 32K and sees that, right, is gonna just sit there and be like, okay, I can sell it to Saylor if I want to. Like, he's offering to buy any Bitcoin that I wanna be selling higher. So I'm just not going to. And then you're obviously gonna see less sellers, more buyers. Some buyers want to front run him. Some sellers don't want to be selling cheap when they can sell a little bit more expensive. So like this rally, in the grand scheme of things, is relatively inconsequential, right? Because this was always going to happen. And we talked about it on Twitter and on stream, I think, that you don't want to be fading that, right? The question is what happens after he's bought? Because once he has bought, it's going to like, either these sellers that wanted to sell the lows basically are going to just get active again and sell into him. And then we're probably going to break down. Like if people can't be FOMO'd into position. And if people can, we're just going to play out the same way that we've done in the past, at least up to resistance into 49Ks. Gosh, Doge. Yeah, all of these words are difficult to me. Jeez. Fuck. Now I'm getting bullied for the next word until I say it right. I mean, at least I'm learning English this way. So, yeah. Could you get Crypto Keith on Casual Friday? No, man. The guy is like literally making a scam coin. Anyone that buys that shit, just get the fuck out. Leave me alone. I don't want to hear from you. Don, when I look at the monthly chart, it looks like garbage. Do you think these are good levels to hold spot backs or just trade the ranges? I think trading the ranges is more than fine. And if you want to be like, that's the thing, right? I've been saying like 32K is interesting for like the last 50 times that we've hit it. So if you want to establish a spot bag, I mean, that was the time. Now that we are kind of in the situation where we have to kind of move up, otherwise we're doomed, because I mean, this is not going to hold again. Other than like a big guy coming in and just rescuing us all again. Like if we get back to 32K, it's not going to hold. So like waiting for 32K is pretty, like, it's meaningless. Like if we get there, you don't want to be buying it. And so if you want to be like, if you're out of position and you kind of sold to 60K and you want to get back in position in this range, right? You either do it here if you're aggressive, or you do it down here, and then you just fucking pray that we don't lose it. Because if we lose 37K and don't have any follow through after the Saylor news, we're going back to 32K and that's not going to hold, right? So if you want to establish yourself in a position, I mean, do it with a daily close above like 39.1 or do it in this 37 range. Anything lower than that, I would think we're going to break down, right? If we do something like this, get rejected there, head lower, I mean, I'm never going to buy 32K again. And I'm willing to buy 37 right now, at least to see how the market reacts to bids there. And if people violently sell into those bids, I mean, I'm going to get spooked and might sell on the bounce. I don't know. But like that's the kind of thing that I'd be willing to play, right? A daily close above 39.1 or in the 37 range. 32K, definitely not. Like, fuck that. And I mean, this might just crap for all eternity, right? But we've learned our lesson, I think, anyway. in this range, right? You can buy this a couple times, but you don't want to be buying it too often because at some point it just fucking giga nukes through. And it's going to be the same case for 32K if we get that again. 32K, never again? Yeah, I mean, never again, or we just go back to 20. Either one. Unless we get like some weird guy getting in again, buying like 2 billion. Then it's a little bit of a different story. And that's like I've heard people try to explain that TA can predict that, whatever. That's just garbage. Like you might be able to see using TA that someone's buying there, right? But you're never gonna be able to predict that. It's just not how it works, right? It's the same. Like you could not predict. Like the chart looks like this and it looks bullish, and then Tesla or Elon gets like this tingly feeling, and it's just like, okay, let's dump all our Bitcoin all at once. I mean, no matter how the chart looked before, it's gonna break down, right? Because it has such a large position that it's just gonna break down. And people are always trying to hindsight analyze that, and that's where kind of TA has no chance. And I don't really understand why people try to make the case for it. Like, I like using TA for trades and to measure my risk, but I mean, if you have to kind of explain yourself that far into the rabbit hole just to make it seem more sane, I mean, I don't get the point. But yeah. TA is garbage? No, it's just like, it's not the answer to everything. And some people try to make it so. And I like to, like, whenever I see arguments, and this is something that a lot of my followers struggle with as well, right? Like, I can be bearish this and can still, like, if someone makes a stupid bearish argument, I can still go and say this is completely stupid argument. And for some reason, a lot of people can't do that, right? I mean, you see a stupid argument, feel free to say it's a stupid argument, right? Even if it agrees with you. Because, I mean, a stupid argument is not going to help anyone. And it's the same for the bullish case too, right? Like I see these people like shill stock to flow, right? And stock to flow is completely idiotic in my mind, right? So I'm going to say I find it completely idiotic. And I have no problem saying that, even if I think the price might actually behave like it. I mean, I have no problem saying it anyway, because the way they kind of come to conclusions that they do is completely stupid. So it's like, you can be bullish and still disagree with stuff done in bad faith and with bad arguments. And you can be bearish and do the same. And it's like, I mean, it's not that difficult, right? And the thing is, like, people aren't, with stock to flow, for example, right? Let's say this stays sideways here for like the next 6 months, right? Stock to flow is basically gonna be invalidated. And then you're gonna get people panic selling because they believe in stock to flow and it's like, it's invalidated, so price has to go down, right? And it's actually not good for Bitcoin itself, because you're gonna get like people that wouldn't have actually sold, you're gonna see them sell. And it's the same thing, like if this breaks down, right? And we go to 20K, then people are gonna be like, okay, stock to flow is invalidated, Bitcoin is going to zero. But that's not the case. Like, we could go to 20K and still be fine. But it's like, people make these constructs and then they have to believe in them and completely panic once they're invalidated. And for some reason, they always pick the most stupid concepts possible, in my mind. So that's kind of how I look at these things. If you can't do that, I think you shouldn't be a trader anyway. Like, if you can't even look further than your own opinion and kind of evaluate if something is actually a good argument or a bad one. The plan B, failure liquidation play, smart. I mean, the thing is, like, people are like, okay, you can't make the argument that stock to flow is bad without saying why it's bad. I mean, when you have to kind of take the stock to flow model and then it gets invalidated and you're just like, okay, we're just gonna like add another letter to it, make it stock to flow X, and then now it's fitting. Like, you can't fit anything. You look at the rainbow chart from Eric Wall. Like, I mean, that's been playing out pretty damn well, right? It's just, Bitcoin is generally moving in the same direction, right? It's generally moving up. And then you can do anything, like you can pick any chart that generally moves up and say Bitcoin is moving up because of this. But it's not because of it. Bitcoin is actually moving up and the model fits because they're both going in the same direction. And I mean, if it helps you hold, be my guest, right? But I mean, if you're selling the bottom because of it, I mean, not my fault. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. Sorry for the rant. Correlation does not mean causation, exactly. Just because it's moving in the same direction doesn't mean it moves in the direction because of it. So, yep. I mean, that's my view on it anyway. In general, like if you're bullish on this thing long term, you haven't been wrong, right? So stock to flow is bullish long term. So I mean, that's why it's fitting so well. And if that helps you hold, yeah. But that shouldn't be the only reason why you're holding, because otherwise you're gonna be getting wrecked, in my opinion. Okay, so we talked about Bitcoin, we talked about alts, anything else that you guys want to be talking about? Because I mean, I don't have that much more. I think that's super important. Something that's super interesting is the reaction to the recent news on the dollar index, which has mega moved. But this is all short term, short time frame. It doesn't have to mean anything, but it's bouncing pretty nice, and that's generally not really good for anything else. But not my market. So I don't want to make too grand calls with it, but yeah. S&P 500, yeah, dude, this is fucking impossible to TA. I think like you can TA it if you're trying to be bullish on it. Like this is a Ponzi that only goes up. You could make an argument if it fails this today, this is a breakdown. But then again, it's the S&P. The shit only goes up, right? So the only way I would use TA on this thing to actually trade it is to catch bottoms, right? Because you don't want to be shorting based on anything. Based on TA alone anyway. And it's not my market, so I can't do anything more than TA, right? But let's say this breaks down, right? Where do you buy it? And then you map out support zones. The hilarious part about this thing is that it's like, this is so hard to buy because it's just up so much. And like any kind of support is just like, when you have something that moves straight up, like where do you buy it? Because you don't really get any indication of where to buy it. Like the next support would be down here. And then you can buy that. But I mean, this is not giving you much confidence. This is a cred level, if anything, which have been working out really well. And the reason why I'm saying cred level is because he's been giga shilling me into, in my view, at the time, shit trades that worked out so well that I was like, what the fuck's going on? Where was it? He was just about to say, ouch, yeah, nah, it wasn't the dig. Was it a weekly level? Yeah, it was a weekly level, right? Yeah, so he showed me this, I think. He was like, buy this support, basically, when we're moving up here. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, this is just one red candle. And it's just giga mood afterwards. And it's like, this happened like a couple times on the way up. I was like, what the fuck? Bull market things, dude. Yeah, the like in there and then up here. Oh yeah, this one too. Like he shielded me this, and I was like, bro, come on, this is shit level, and then moved more than like the double from it. So, I mean, I wouldn't expect anything else for the SPX as well. But yeah, I think this actually like there's some weird shit going on, dudes. Like there's. Have any of you like actually followed the traditional markets lately? Like, look at this garbage. Like, this, we have like altcoin action on lumber, for example. Like, The fuck? Like, this is not normal. Like, there's this weird shit going on, obviously. I mean, you just have to look at the charts. It's just like, what the fuck does it mean? And I've asked a bunch of people that like are working for funds in the traditional markets, and basically everyone's just like, it's just markets being markets. But like, what the fuck's this shit? Like, who kind of thought like, okay, I'm just gonna like stockpile lumber because it's gonna go fucking parabolic? I mean, I never did. I was thinking about buying a forest, but like, not for shit like this. I mean, that's just, yeah, it's rough. These kind of things like would be way beyond. Like, this is way beyond my trading skills. Like, you get these kind of markets, you just try to sell high, and then you're like, okay, nice. I'm gonna look at this in another year, see if it has calmed down or not. But I mean, seeing this kind of stuff, I mean, I know this has meaning. I just don't know what the fuck it means yet. But I mean, as soon as I'm figuring it out, I'm gonna tell you guys. But I mean, so far, I just don't. But yeah, that's that. Like I said, and the funny thing is, right? I talked this bunch of shit about ETH. It looks a million times better than any of the other altcoins. So don't hate on me, ETH lovers, because I mean, I'm still much more bullish ETH than any of the other altcoins. Basically, it's just it looks garbage alongside everything else. So. Dawn just occurred to me, is there lithium chart EV batteries? I bet there is. I mean, it's not my market. I never looked it up. But I mean, if anyone knows a good ticker for it, I mean, I know there is. It's just, I have no idea what the ticker is. Do you agree with Fred that 3738 is the new Bitcoin support? Yes, yes. You look at this. This is exactly, I mean, I don't have 37, 38, I have 36, 37, basically. This is the best support that we have beyond this one. So if we close back below this one, I think we're going to this one. And if that fails, I mean, all bets off, everyone for himself. Dump round number 2, I think. Could you go through a complacency bound scenario from here? I mean, yeah, I don't think like me drawing you lines helps you much, but if you really want to, and this is just me pulling stuff out of my ass, like how I could see the market move, right? So we're in this range right now. And the reason why I'm not doing it on my actual chart is because I don't want to make it ugly, right? But we're in this range, basically. Okay, so this here is the larger range, right? This here is the smaller range. So we've broken out of the smaller range to the downside ones and to the upside ones. Like, this is just a sign of like a super choppy market, right? The bigger range in here, that's still intact, right? So there's basically not been a bigger range breakout, but I think there's going to be one. I don't know if it's going to be to the upside or the downside, right? Could see break up here, go like this, and then just fall back into it. I could see the same thing actually happen on the downside. Like, if we actually move down lower, I could see us nuke and then reclaim and then still go sideways, right? But how the complacency bounce would look like is either we actually keep holding 39K here and then grind up towards 40K. That's already been tested a couple of times. Break out to the upside from there and then go sideways into this and actually sell back off again. And then that will look like a massive complacency bounce, and then you probably go lower. The same thing could be true if we break down from here. We break down from here, go just straight down basically, because I mean that's what's gonna happen if we do. Bounce, go up, and then complacency bounce from there. Like that being the complacency bounce. And then you have this, and then you bleed back down. Like there's two ways in which this could complacency bounce on the macro time frame, and I have no idea which one it's gonna take. That's why I've been trying to buy 32K, because if it does, and I mean it's been playing out pretty nicely, if it does this, I mean that's a pretty hefty move in itself, right? And then you can kind of like, if you're in a long position from low, you can kind of still see if the market is actually bullish or more bullish than you thought. And then if it breaks to the upside, you're in a really good position to take advantage of the double bubble scenario that we talked about earlier. I think that's a very, very small percentage, it's very, very, very small chance that we're just double bubbling from here. But I mean, it's a pretty nice position to be in, to kind of have like the position to be able to consider that scenario, basically. But yeah, I mean, if you want to be trading the complacency bounds, I think there's either going to be one from like the 2022 range into like 50K. That's going to be a massive one. Or one from up here, and then you have it, and then you go lower. I mean, 14K is not really what I'm targeting, but you get the picture. That would be the complacency territory, and then, like I said, double bubble. I mean, that means we're basically closing and holding in the 60K range, and I think we'd probably go to like 80, 90, 100K. LAC. Okay. For the lithium ticker, because someone asked. Yeah, it's unsurprisingly been going up. But it's the same as lumber, basically, right? How the fuck do you want to be trading this? Like, this just looks like it's starting to bleed out, right? And it's finding resistance here, which is pretty shit, TA-wise. But I have no fundamental reason to be bullish or bearish this, because I have no fucking idea. And I think this is really, like, it's important to have an idea of what you're trading, because, I mean, if you have a fundamental idea whether you think this should go up or down, you know, like, how to read these charts much better, right? For example, if you're looking at Bitcoin and you think this is gonna go up long term, because, like, let's be real, you look at this and you're like, okay, this is done. Like, any sane person that has nothing to do with Bitcoin looks at this and they're like, this is done. This market is done. It's topped. I'm going to come back in 5 to 10 years to this. And then it's going to look much better and might go up or might go down, right? Like, anyone that is not in crypto would be thinking that, in my opinion, looking at this chart, just simply on, like, chart wise. But the people that are in crypto, we're going to be looking, like, if this dips some more, we're going to be looking to buy the dip, because we know how this has behaved in the past, and that Bitcoin truly, like, never dies. Every time people talk about it being dead, it just goes back up, right? But just from a chart perspective, I mean, if you're buying this based on the chart, I don't see good reason to do so. This just looks like a giant head and shoulder, one of the most bearish charts that I've seen in a long time, right? So it depends kind of on your outlook of things and on your understanding of the market. And my understanding of the market is that it's not going to disappear. That's why I'm still around. Otherwise, I would have just, sold the 60s and then just left and then came back maybe 5 years later. But this just looks like garbage. So, Don sounds like an old East European guy wearing Adidas jumpsuit. Do I really? Jesus Christ. If that's the picture that you have of me, I'm down. Sounds like a chill dude to me. Can you look at the monthly chart with log scale? Yeah, we can. Like, when you're looking at this, right, it's a pullback, and that's fine. But the problem is this candle right now. Like, I've been saying, I want to be seeing 3 candles to the downside. Basically, we've been talking about this monthly chart for a while now, right? A couple of months, basically. And at 60K, we're like, okay, we could, after this candle, basically, I was like, I could see 3 months of downside from here. And what I meant by that is that you get a candle, and then you get a candle, and then you get a little bit smaller candle. Like, that's how a constructive pullback looks like, right? Momentum slowing down. Like that's a fine looking pullback. You have a massive run up, you get like 3 smaller candles, and then you get another leg. However, this, like what this looks like more to me is you've had a breakdown with a massive impulse to the downside, and then the bull action is non-existent, right? So at least you're gonna have to see like 2 or 3 more candles to the downside, like on the bigger picture, to make this look bullish again. Like if it did something like this with like continuous bigger green candles, that would look like it's gonna go to 100K, right? And I wouldn't have any problem like literally buying into something like this and taking it there. It's just right now it looks like an impulse to the downside into straight up sideways into probably another impulse to the downside on the higher time frames. So it's a pretty tough spot right now. Remember to like the video, please. Duck needs a new tracksuit. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. It's the one way to make Cred happy. So I mean, I'll love to do it. No, I'm way too lazy to ask for it usually, and he always does because he's a good worker, and I'm not. So I always feel bad afterwards because I forget. So do me the favor. Sounds like a duck. I mean, if I sound like a duck to you, I mean, that's great. Persona working out. This channel is too good to be true. Thank you for that. I mean, appreciate it. Trying our best. Cred is hard to please. Smash like, make him almost smile. I'm gonna get people to think he's like this old grumpy dude. Just give me like a year or 2. It tricks the YouTube into giving Don and Cred money. I mean, I don't think like we don't have ads enabled and that shit. Like if any ads come up, it's not on our behalf. We don't do it. Do people not think that already? I mean, and I've done my job well. YouTube isn't monetized, yep. So there you go. Straight from the boss. What could be the price that it should not pass? What do you mean by that? To the downside. I mean, I think like what we shouldn't be losing is 14K on the monthly. Like if this has another leg down and then bleeds down, I think it should stop at 14K and then rally from there. Like that would be my bearish scenario. Basically, we break down, we go all the way to 14K, bounce from there, and then you can still make the argument for a larger time frame complacency bounce if you want to. But I'm not really expecting that right now. For me, it's like literally in a range and it could go either way. But the high time frames looks kind of garbage, so the chances of it breaking down are pretty high compared to usual. But yeah, 14K, loss of 14K would be really problematic. Anything above there, completely fair, I think. Like if this goes sideways for a couple of years and Taylor gets squeezed out and someone buys without taking on debt and buys without kind of relying on the traditional financial system, I wouldn't really be opposed to that. 14K, what the fuck? I mean, he asked what should be the price that shouldn't be crossed, and I think like 14K is literally the price that we should not be losing. Now, it doesn't mean we have to go there, it's just like we really shouldn't be losing it. So it's good that it's so far away. If you take a quick look at the IOTA chart, it's an automatic like. I mean, you know that I'm gonna make fun of it, bro. Why do you do this to yourself? I don't understand. So I'm looking at this. I mean, the BTC chart is just whatever, right? So actually, the BTC chart isn't actually looking too terrible. Kind of like XRP. I would put it on the same level as XRP. Because we've had that breakout, you have support down here. If you start losing this, I mean, that's literally game over. But as long as that's sustained, that's fine. With the problem with IOTA is the USD chart because we've had a massive shakeout or breakdown or whatever you want to call it. And then we've had the kind of like the relief bounce right into resistance, right? So there's this resistance. If you kind of get back above it, maybe it has some more room to go. I'm actually surprised that it's not looking as bad as I thought it would be, but that bounce, like that move down, is hilarious in itself. Jesus Christ. How's my friend's stuff doing? Jesus Christ. I feel bad for this. Okay, that's, I think, more than enough. Do you also do FA or only TA? Mostly TA, but like the most obvious FA that you could get, like that everyone kind of understands, I do look at as well. So, for example, right, with narratives and stuff, I mean, this is FA, right? You see Bitcoin at 32K and you see Saylor announce 500 millions of buys, and you see that TA wise, you see that momentum is slowing down, right? And that's what I saw in here. That's why I've been like I started getting FOMO down here. TA wise, momentum is slowing down. FA wise, I know Saylor's gonna buy 500 million as soon as he can. So why the fuck would I be bearish, right? Even if the chart looked kind of meh, like there's no reason to be bearish down here. And there's no reason to be bearish until Saylor has bought, or at least until it's super, super close to his buy. Because something that could be happening is that he's buying OTC somewhere, and he's had already like had a deal with, like, for example, like if I was Saylor, right? And I mean, how I would be looking at this is, I know that I'm getting 500 million to buy this. I would be going somewhere and telling them, yo guys, I want 500 million of Bitcoin. Can you sell this to me at a later date? I'm going to take it off of your hands, right? And then basically it's already like his buy is already priced into the up movement, but people are like kind of chasing that narrative, right? But if you get these narratives early, I mean, there's good money to be made, right? And that's very, very simple FA, and it's logical, but for some reason people always try to 250 IQ it. And they're like, okay, Saylor is buying, but he wouldn't be announcing this if he wouldn't want price to go down because he wants to buy cheap. And then people don't realize that he cannot just go there, sell 10% of his stack, buy it back. Because the thing is, like, even if he sold 10%, like that's a comment I got over and over and over again. Like, even if he sold 10%, even if it made any sense, which it doesn't, because if he sells 10%, the entire market disappears. And even if he buys back after, people would be like, okay, this guy is just gambling with his money. I don't want to, like, this is super bearish generally. But let's say it would be reasonable, right? Even if you sell a shitload and start liquidating people, there's a good chance that there's someone else sitting there buying off of you, and then you have to chase it higher, and then liquidity disappears and you're just fucked, right? So there's no reason for him to like push the price down or whatever. He's doing none of that. So it's like, you don't have to be like the 250 IQ trying to read into stuff too much. I mean, a guy says he's gonna buy 500 million at a later date, and you see momentum disappear. You don't go full ape and try to short into that. Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. And for some reason, that hasn't really, like, that train of thought doesn't make much sense to like crypto degens. But I mean, I guess that's why we're making money in the long run, right? Because people are just unwilling to kind of accept simple truths. And I mean, that is one of them. Like, if someone comes around and says he's going to buy a shitload, I mean, prices are going to go up, at least in the short term, as long as momentum is still there. Isn't there, right? Like, you have a sell off, and then Saylor says during the sell-off or somewhere in the middle, he's going to buy, and then you see momentum continue. You don't want to be the guy that just blindly buys because of it. But the moment you see momentum disappear, that's where you want to be looking at it and be like, okay, does this even make sense, the selling? And most of the time it doesn't. So there you go. Offer? Fuck. Am I getting wrecked by cred again? Shit. But yeah, that's kind of my view on it anyway. So you can use FA, you can use T8, just be logical about it. And don't try to like do the illogical thing just because it supports your narrative or whatever. So Captain Sailor will go down with the ship. Yep, he will. Gonna be an interesting one, regardless. Like, let's say this breaks down and goes sideways for 3, 4, 5 years, right? Which is a possibility. I mean, it's done it before. I mean, I just wonder where the market's gonna go. And it's gonna be fucking super cool to trade. It's just gonna be boring for most, but like, I mean, that's just how markets are usually. Like, this excitement all of the time is not normal. For the people that have like not been around in markets for a while, like usually markets tend to be quite boring. And when they're this exciting, they're usually close to the top. But then again, we are in an everything bubble where everything goes up, so it's a little bit special this time around, right? But markets shouldn't be too exciting. If they are super exciting, they're in danger of shit happening to it anyway. So if this goes sideways, I mean, that'd just be healthy. And people are like, if this goes sideways for 3 years, it's dead. And it's not the case. Just not how this works. What a time to be here, though. Yeah, 100%. Sailor's either going to be basically made into a god figure, like Elon Musk is, or he's going to be branded as the biggest idiot. Because he can only get super rich or sell the bottom, in my opinion. Like, there's no in between. This goes sideways for 6 years, he's going to have to start selling shit off. This goes sideways for 3 years at low prices, I could still see him have to sell some off, right? So he's either going to be selling the bottom or he's going to be a hero. No in between. Okay, so that's my view on it. To recap, look at this daily close. That's going to be interesting and super important in my view. We lose 39.2. I mean, that looks pretty shitty, not gonna lie. And then, I mean, I might look at 37, but honestly, like, I'm not promising you anything. I might be there, I might not be there. I'm just gonna update you on Friday. But not too hot about buying below 39.2. But I mean, maybe. It's the best support that we have, so I'm at least gonna be looking at it. And anything beyond that, like if we start losing 36, like I legitimately think that's probably gonna be game over for a while. So still a pretty tight invalidation, right? I talked about invalidation down here being really close by. Now, like let's say you held on to the buys that we talked about down here. Now the invalidation is even tighter, right? Start losing 36.7 on the closing basis, and that's the trade is wrong in my opinion. So it's pretty nice, invalidation really close, and if it invalidates, I don't really see a reason to fade it, right? It invalidates you, it's probably gonna go lower. And if it invalidates you and starts chopping, it's probably gonna chop for a long time, so you don't wanna be getting in position anyway. So there you go, that's just the kind of TLDW, too long didn't watch. I don't even know if you say that, but I mean, I'm saying it. So yeah, thanks for coming by. Big shout out to Blockfolio for sponsoring the show. Their links are in the description. Check them out if you want to support the show. And yeah, they still do all the stuff that they've done for years, just also with trading now. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, see you guys on Friday. If we can make it happen, we might have Max Bonin again from B2C2. Can't promise anything because scheduling has been a pain. Otherwise, we're gonna figure something out. It's gonna be fun. So yeah, see you guys and have a nice evening or day. Bye bye.